Hello, everybody. Today we have a massive update to Shadow Era. They have introduced um, dozens of cards to the game, as well as a bunch of card updates. I believe the total number of changes is in this like 60 to 70 changes, something in that ballpark. So today we're going to take a quick look at some of those changes. And so if you want some of the newer cards, what you're going to need to do is open these packs because they're not in the merchant yet. The way it works is as more packs are open and people sell their extra copies of those cards, then they are going to be added to the merchant and you can buy them with gold. But these booster packs can only be brought with Shadow Crystals. I've got 14 of them, so let's just open some up and see what we get. Okay, looks like they have this interesting feature. Let's try to just open 5. See what happens. Okay, so as you can see, some of these newer cards, Migration is a new card, and we pulled 2 of them. And yeah, so you're gonna have to just open packs to get these new cards, but let's see. This one hasn't really seen that much play on the test server, so I'm not sure how impactful it will be, but it's still a pretty cool card. It's like Sacrificial Lambs for humans. Okay, let's see what else we got. Okay, this is another new card, another one that hasn't really seen much play, but it's 2 damage, and it can do even more damage if it removes attachments, enemy attachments, so from an ally. So it's a nice tech card. This is a good card, Scrap Cannoneer. It's one that was changed late in the test server, so it's I don't think it's been used that much, but it is a pretty unique card because it deals 2 damage and exiles items. So you can get rid of an opponent's item loop. So a lot of opponents will run, a lot of players will run stuff like Gemstone Javelin, and you'll want to exile that from their graveyard. Okay, Mending Golem is actually a really impactful card. It discards an item or ally and lets you heal 2 damage. Now this is really important for a couple reasons. First of all, any hero can use it because it's a neutral item. And discarding an item is actually currently really hard to do. It's one of the few cards that can get items in your graveyard reliably for some heroes. And it's a great discard outlet for them. So this has been used actually quite a bit just for the discarding, but also for the healing. When you discard stuff, you heal 2, and that seems kind of low, but healing is really difficult to do in Shadow Era, and this could help a lot of those control strategies that need to heal up in the late game. This is one of the, I would say, better cards from this expansion, Scrapyard Recycler. What makes this so good is it costs 2, but it awakens using this active ability if there's an item in your graveyard. Now, Awakens is basically Clockwork Soldier, so it's a new keyword. It becomes a 3/3 Aldmore ally. So basically, for a cost of 2, you get a 3/3 ally on the field. That's really good. That's much better than, you could think of Puin as the kind of standard of a 2-cost ally. That's like a 2-attack, 3-health ally. So this already at 3/3, that's the stat line of a lot of 3-cost allies, actually, like Priest of the Light. So you're getting a lot of value out of this Awaken ability. But personally, I think what makes it so strong in any artifact build is if you have no cards in your hand, you get to take the bottom artifact in your graveyard and add it to your hand. And that's really, really strong, actually, for those artifact strategies where you can actually kind of get pseudo-draw from that and recycling, importantly. So you can run a 40-card deck and not worry about decking out or running out of cards. Okay, Hinder and Debilitate. This is more for control decks. It is just another tool to kind of help with that. Personally, I don't like it too much because it is a little restrictive, but it's definitely a card you can use. Alright, let's see. Did we get any new cards? Okay, Unstable Gateway. This is another good card. But I would say people haven't found out how to abuse this yet. I think it has a lot of potential, but people haven't found a deck to really abuse it in yet. But what it does is it lets you seek any ally from your deck with cost X or less, where X is the durability, and then it gains the durability after you use it. So you can seek a 2-cost ally, then a 3-cost ally, and that's it actually, because then if it has 4 or greater durability, it actually just gets destroyed. So it's 2 searches, but it's any ally you want, so that makes it really, really good. Okay. Alright, this is one of my favorite cards that to come out of Shadow, this new expansion, Lost Lands. So, what it does is it gives your allies that have activated abilities. An activated ability, let's see, okay, it's kind of like this. You activate it, so it doesn't happen when it's summoned, it doesn't happen when it's played, but if you control it and it stays on your field for 1 turn, then you can use this effect, pay 1 shadow energy to take an artifact, place it in your hand. Now, there are some allies with active abilities that cost 1. Actually, we have one right here, Woven Slaver. It costs 1 to use this active ability. What this does is it reduces that cost. Okay, actually, it does not reduce the cost. It used to, but they changed it. Now it just gives that ally haste, so that you can actually use that ability on the same turn you summon that ally. And that's a huge deal, because a lot of times you play these allies with active abilities and they just die before you can use them, so this will definitely help those strategies. It's more of a fun card, I would say. I don't think it's that strong. The non-control ability is really good. It just shuts down all your active abilities, so and it's a turn 5 location, so it has a lot of potential, but it's more of a fun card. Alright, let's see, what else is new? Augmenting Golem is, a lot of these new cards are golems, and they have this awaken keyword. This is another one of them, and it gives all your allies cost 4 or less 1 health, but then you can awaken it and give all your friendly allies 1 attack. And personally, I think this is probably the next Alden the Brave. It's just such a powerful effect. Being able to choose between offense and defense, and switching between those, depending on what makes the most sense. Now, you do have to pay a shadow energy for this effect, but I still think the flexibility makes it worth it, and competitive with Alden the Brave. And of course, you can actually run this and Alden the Brave for even more boosting, so definitely great for aggressive strategies. Reinforcer, this one honestly hasn't seen that much play, but it gives an ally with 4 less health 1 health, and then it awakens after 3 times. So it's kind of slow, but it is really good value. You're getting 4 health and a 3/3 ally out of this. So I expect this to have a lot of potential in some decks. Maybe not in actually... there's a couple of deck types that have emerged from this expansion. One of them is animation decks that focus on awakening your artifacts. I don't know if this will actually be used that much in those decks, because a lot of their allies, which we'll get to, they actually have more than 4 health. So we'll see. This might see more use in something like Tala, maybe, or yeah, I'm just guessing there. But Contemplate. Okay, this is in one of the other new cards. You draw 3 and shuffle 2 into the deck, and then sometimes when the opposing hero has more shadow energy, they lose shadow energy. Honestly, I'm not too sold on this card. It's kind of it doesn't give you a card advantage. It just lets you search, dig through your deck for like maybe a better card. But the problem is it costs 2, and it's a really, it can be good because you might find the card you need, but oftentimes, unless you're playing like a really slow control deck, you can't really afford to pay that 2 mana just to basically, search for a card you need, because you're going to spend the 2 mana and then not even be able to play the card you add to your hand. Alright, let's see. Okay, this one is a hugely impactful card, Darkwood Leech. I think it's very underrated. A lot of people say it's not so good. When it's killed or discarded from anywhere, you heal 2 damage and it's exiled. Okay, so this is really, really strong because if you're adding it to your deck, it's got good stats. 2/3. It's nothing, amazing, but it's not bad. It's about standard for a 2-cost ally, and it basically means if you run just 4 copies of this, you have 8 more health than your opponent, and that's a huge, huge advantage in Shadow Era. I think this is really gonna see a lot of play. Invasion. Okay, this one basically was not played at all on the test server. I think it has some potential, but the problem is support abilities generally are kind of bad, honestly, because they go away after a while, and they don't do anything unless you generally have other stuff on the field, so they're usually not that good. But this is actually an anti-location tech, and so it gives your allies attack, and when you kill an opposing ally, you get to take control of the location, and you get to draw cards too. So this could be good maybe in a Ravencrest deck. Ravencrest has actually been kind of changed, so we'll go over that. But okay, Rositian Saboteur. This is another kind of a tech card. I haven't been too impressed with it. You can exile an item or ability with cost 2 or less, and it's placed in the graveyard. Now, the reason I don't like it so much is there are not that many abilities or items that cost 2 or less that you actually really want to exile. At best, this is trading, but usually an even trade is not what you want when you're destroying an item, and that's because your opponent, if they play Blood Moon, for example, well, they're gonna draw at the end of the turn for the Blood Moon, and yeah, you can exile it, but you're actually down in card advantage from doing that. So, like, the opponent, when they play an item or an ability, they get to use it immediately, and this kind of reactive play, especially when it trades evenly, it's just not very, very good. I think this maybe should be buffed a little, because I feel like it's not too strong. And especially its stats are really weak at 2/2. You would rather play a stronger 2-cost ally if you're going to play it as an ally at all. Okay, let's open the rest of these. Okay, let's just see what we get. Alright, more Leech. Okay. Thief's Stiletto. I tried making a deck out of this, and I came to the conclusion that because of item destruction, it's just, by the time you get it to an insane attack value, which is really hard to do, the effect is when you summon a card that you are not the owner of, so you're going to use cards like Black Market, it gains a durability, and you can pay durability to give it an attack. Well, if you steal a bunch of cards and play them, by the time you put a Stiletto to like 3 or 4 attack, your opponent's just going to destroy it with their item destruction. And it's like just too slow for an already slow strategy of stealing cards, which generally, it's very mana inefficient to steal cards. It's just too slow. I wasn't able to make a really good deck out of it, but it's a fun card, and yeah, it has some potential, especially since it has Ambush. That's actually really nice, because the kind of hero you would want to use this in is probably Serena, and actually she takes a lot of damage, which is kind of the problem, especially since she starts with such low health, and that's what makes her so vulnerable to mages and rush strategies. So Ambush is a nice keyword, and at 1/4 or 2/3, that's about, even if you don't steal anything, that's about on par with what you would expect for a 4-cost weapon. So definitely not bad. If it's not used, it's because the other rogue weapons are just so broken, like Ankle Breaker or Swamp Stripper or Cutlass are just really good, so for that reason, maybe this won't see that much play. Alright, let's see. Okay. Okay, this was a card that was nerfed a little. You lose a Shadow Energy after using it. Frostflame Harpy. Now, this card was kind of made for Reika, which was an underused hero. What she does is she gains a health if you summon it. If you're going second and you summon it, it gains a health, so it'll be 1/4. If you're going first, it's just 1/3. But it's really a 2-attack ally. but a much more flexible one because you can use its active to deal fire damage to anything, a hero or an ally. Now, what makes it so good with Reika is you activate Reika's ability, it increases the damage an ally does by 1. Then this damage is increased by 1, and this attack value is increased by 1. So it suddenly becomes a 4 damage, 4 attack ally for 2 cost. So it becomes really, really strong. There's a Portal deck with Frostflame Harpies. This basically is a 2 cost Fireball with Portal. It's very good. Okay. Transporting Golem. This is a new card. I don't think it's very good at all now. If you've awakened an artifact, you can seek an artifact. But the problem is you need to awaken another artifact, and that's really hard to do. And then you have to seek an artifact, which is really good, but it costs 3 to seek an artifact. Yeah, I'm not sure about this one. Okay, Barabbas, the Tainted. This is a card I thought would be a lot better than it really is in practice. When it's summoned, all heroes lose their stored shadow energy, and then you can choose an opposing ally, and it takes damage equal to the amount of shadow energy lost. So, I mean, there's some heroes like Moonstalker that just store up shadow energy until they have like 7 or 9 shadow energy. This is a great counter to that. But outside of that, it's just, it's still a solid card, but you're also kind of hurting yourself because you are also going to be losing your own stored shadow energy. And, oftentimes, especially if you're against an aggressive opponent, they're not going to have that much stored shadow energy for you to, to steal. So, honestly, it's kind of too situational. It's a very situational card. You can't rely on your opponent storing up shadow energy, and you don't want to, blow up your own shadow energy either. And so, honestly, the active might be the better part of this card. So if you can put this into play without triggering the summoning effect. So there's several ways to do that. Gravebone maybe, or something else. All opposing heroes and allies taking 2 damage is huge. That's a massive effect. That's basically like a board wipe, a mini board wipe. It's I think the active is honestly better than the on-summon effect. Okay, let's try to quickly go through these. Ruby, Imbalance, Dagger. Now this this card is very, very good, but it still needs a good deck for it. People are still looking to find a deck that they can fit this in. It says when you have 8 or more resources, it gains 1 attack and 1 durability. So it becomes a 2/4. That's, a 2/4 weapon. That's usually a 5-cost weapon. So you're getting a 5-cost weapon for 3 if you have 8 or more resources. So it's still good late game. Now, early game, it's still good because when it's destroyed, it gets placed on top of your resources. So this is also a resource acceleration card. And those have traditionally been really, really good. If you think about Devoted Knight, that's a 4 of in most priest decks. And that's like the ally version of this. So this has a ton of potential. The reason it hasn't seen that much play is because priests kind of want to use Wizen's Staff. So it competes with cards that are already being played. And hunters, generally, they're not super excited about this resource acceleration strategy. A lot of hunters are a little bit faster. And they have other 3-cost weapons like Weevil that they might want to use instead. So really, I think it's a great card. But the classes it's in maybe don't want it. So we'll have to see what kind of decks come out of it. Alright, now we have Striker. This card is honestly very good. Target an ally gains 1 base attack. Now it's very similar to Reinforcer, but this costs 1 shadow energy to use. And, that makes it worse, but the base attack is usually better than base health because it lets you actually kill other allies. So I would say this is slightly better because of that. And also for shadows, they can make use of this. There's an Elementalis deck that really makes great use out of this, especially since giving base attacks synergizes with some of their cards. So definitely one to watch out for. Okay, we already covered this one. Royal Guard. This is an interesting card, but also another one that is kind of one people haven't really found out how to use yet. Definitely one to watch out for. But you can see this is basically it gets keywords if you summon other stuff with it. So could be interesting. Alright, let's see. Okay. So yeah, that basically sums it up. I don't think we pulled any more new cards. Okay, so I already have actually, let's just turn on show unusable, turn on lands. Let's go over, I have 4 copies of all the new cards, so we can just look at it through there. So, Ascetic of the Veil is a new card. When there are no items, it has +2 attack, so it becomes a 4/7, which is really, really good for 5. And it can return an item to its owner's hand. And it has Steadfast. So it is a very good card overall. We'll have to see where it actually sees play. Now this is one of the best cards to come out of Lost Lands 3. So it's called Ipster Leander. Once per turn, when an item becomes an ally, you draw a card. That is really just amazing. You can play this in Aramia, and then use Aramia's ability to play an Ice Roll from the deck, and draw a card for that, and it's protected. That is an amazing combo. This card alone has made animation decks possible. It will probably make them tier 1. They're very, very strong. Definitely one of the cards you want to see. One of the ones you want to pull from your packs. Okay. I think we haven't gone over this one, Black Sky Bmoff. Another kind of niche card. It targets 2 allies with cost 2 or less and kills them, and then it takes 2 damage every time you do that. But yeah, its stats are kind of low, so I don't know how good it will be. Golem Engineer. I personally actually don't like this card. A lot of people say it's really good, but honestly, its effect is you can ready an artifact that awakens by removing one of your resources from play. The reason I don't like it is you summon this card, has 5 health, and if your opponent kills it, then you can't use the active ability. So it doesn't matter how good this active is if it doesn't live. And honestly, it's probably not going to live. And it gives your artifacts 1 health when they awaken. But personally, I think that's just too small of a buff. That's not giving you much value out of this. I think this card is a little overrated. Aldrades the Aged. This is another one of those new fatties. It's going to have Shroud. Now, Shroud is another new keyword from this set. It's targeted by an ability, the ability has no effect, and it cancels the Shroud. So that's a really good protection effect against stuff like Mind Control, anything that targets that would kill it. It just negates that. But it's only 1 time. I think it's good, but it's not broken because you can use a cheap ability on it. You can even use something like Frostflame Harpy has that active ability that deals 1 damage. That cancels Shroud. So Shroud has a lot of counters. Now, once per each player's turn, when an ability is active with Shadow Energy, all heroes lose 1 Shadow Energy. Now, this effect is really kind of, I would say, kind of toxic almost. You can lock your opponent out of ever using their hero ability with this effect. I think it's, yeah, for some heroes especially, that can be brutal. Like, you could think of Bloodfang. It really needs his ability, but if you play Aldrades, then you can just lock him out with that. And his active is not so good, but it triggers his passive. So you draw 2 cards and shuffle 1 back into your owner's deck. So I mean, it's actually really good. It's like Chalice from Priests, but I would say this passive is what makes this card so broken. It's a very good card, definitely one to try and pull. Let's see, all these are older cards. Yeah, there's been a bunch of changes too, so we're not gonna maybe cover all of them. Maybe that can be another video, but there are some very impactful ones. I'll quickly go over some of the new decks that I think are gonna have a lot of potential, but yeah, we already went over this. Okay. There might have been some I just skipped because I'm trying to go through this quickly. Darklight Observer. For people who hate Seek, this card actually counters Seek. When an opposing player seeks, they discard a card from their hand at random. So yeah, you can use this to counter those Seek decks that people have been complaining about. Annihilate, okay, you exile an opposing ally for 6 cost. This is pretty good, but honestly, personally, I think it's not the best. It used to be really good, but it was nerfed, so, I mean, the problem with this card is every class already has this kind of effect. I mean, you can think of elementals. They already have mind control, so why would they run Annihilate? And mages, they have, well, Shadow Bolt. So I think this card may be good for, like, those heroes that are really control-y. They can get to turn 6, and they want to be, dealing with those fatties, but I don't think it'll be that good. Urge to Ascend is another one that, I mean, this is actually a card that I think, it has some potential. It basically gives 4 attack to your ally, which is massive, but it costs 4. That's the real problem with this card. So really, I could see it maybe invest or something, but which will reduce that cost down. But at 4 cost, it's just not worth it to play an attachment for 4 cost. But it also gives you a Shadow Energy when you kill an ally. So yeah, kind of a mixed bag there. All right. Okay, these cards, Victor's Quiver, very impactful card. When it's destroyed, the top Hunter ability is returned to your hand. So think about Poison Arrow, think about, Hunter's Gambit exiles itself, so you can't loop that. But Poison Arrow for sure is the one that people were abusing on the test server. It's really good. It, basically places itself, and you can get an ally with bow attack. It's exhausted, and an opposing ally takes 2 plus X damage. So you're dealing 2 damage, basically, if you have a Hunter ally on field, with this effect 3 times. So that's, 6 damage. 6 damage for a 3-cost card that also gives you a Poison Arrow from the grave is very strong. Definitely will help Vic and some other decks. Packmaster's Pauldron. This card, this is a card that can be used in some OTK decks, and it's actually very viable. It seems kind of, 5 cost, that's kind of high, but if you read the effect, when it loses durability or is destroyed, all Woven allies gain +1 attack. And you can use its active, reduce the durability by 1, target a friendly Woven ally, it gains 1 attack. So what you do is you use this ability, the ally you want gains 1 attack, then, because it lost durability, all of your Woven allies gain 1 attack. So the Woven ally you targeted gains a total of 2 attack, everything else gains 1 attack, and then if you use it and keep using it, you can keep giving your allies attack. And especially in something like Moonstalker, you can easily one-turn kill your opponent if they're not careful. Poison Lace Gloves, another really good control card for rogues this time. Poison damage is increased by 1. That's really massive. It makes it very viable to do some of those poison strategies that have been in the rogue class for a while, but not super viable. It says target opposing ally is poisoned and takes X damage, where X is the number of cards you control but do not own. Being able to poison anything for 1 durability is really, really good. Especially with this effect that increases the damage by 1. So basically, it's dealing 2 damage for 1 durability. You can use this 4 times. So, 8 damage or really 7 damage, because when it's destroyed, then the effect's no longer applied. That's still really good, and it's going to have this small bonus of damage if you can steal cards. So very good for Garth. Probably pretty good for Serena, though it competes with another good armor for her. Okay, Training Sword is going to be really impactful. When it's summoned, it seeks a warrior support ability. It enters at play, and it gains 1 attack for having that. So even though it costs 6, you're searching a support ability, and those usually cost 2. So really, this is costing 4 for a 2/5. That's really good. That's a very, very good effect. Definitely going to see a lot of play. Okay. Okay, they nerfed this card, and it's basically unusable now. It basically it has no active anymore. It just reduces the cost of allies by 1, but you don't really... Okay, I'll just say this. Um, cost reduction effects are very good. We just had a meta where Lackmire, which renewed resources, and Iram, which renewed resources, were dominating the meta. But the thing is, both of those cards used low-cost cards to combo with that resource reduction generally. You don't want to resource reduct your high-cost allies because the impact is much less. If you decrease the cost 7 ally to a cost 6 ally, it's basically costing the same. It's not like you're going to play, Kion, and then, you're still going to have resources to play something else, even if it costs 6 in general. If you're playing a cost 2 ally and you reduce it to cost 1, that is massive. You just reduce the cost by half. So you want to be using those cost reduction cards on cards that are cheap. And reducing the cost of allies that are expensive is just not worth it, in my view. So yeah, now that card is pretty much garbage. Okay, there's one more location. Okay, Darklight Citadel, no. Okay, I just have 2 because one of them is foil. That's why. Okay. Alright, these cards are good. Warner is one of my favorite cards to come out of the new expansion. I still don't know if he's broken or just good, or maybe I just like him a lot. For every different ability your friendly allies have, from Ambush, Defender, Haste, Protector, Shroud, and Steadfast, Warner gains at the end 1 attack and that ability. So there's a Tala deck I'm using that really abuses this because Tala can give Protector to any ally, and you use your other allies to give them Ambush, Defender, or Haste. This card, at one time I got all of these abilities on it. It was an 8 attack, Haste, 8/7 Defender, Protector, Shroud, Steadfast. I mean, if you stack all the abilities on this, it's just incredibly broken. Now it's kind of hard to do, so that kind of bounces the card, but still. Arthile is, I think, probably the best fatty to come out of the set, but you need to be kind of careful with him. He's only a 2/4, but when you summon an ally, it gains 2 attack and 2 health. So that actually applies to itself. You can summon itself, it becomes a 4/6. The reason I say it's the best one is, if it sticks, giving an ally 2 attack and 2 health every single turn is a huge, massive snowball effect. And it's well protected because of Shroud. So I really like this one. I think it has the most potential. But, yeah, we'll just have to see how these fatties play out. Okay, this is the location I was talking about. Hall of Doors. Target friendly ally is shuffled into the deck. Seek an ally that costs 1 more. And it enters play at the end of the turn. Now, the reason I think this card is really good, although it's turn 6, which is kind of really slow, is you could think of a card like Volcanic Springs. Okay, you pay 1 shadow energy and remove all negative effects. Well, this does that, and it's upgrading your ally. It's just a really strong card overall. It needs to be built around. You need to have a lot of cards that work well and synergize with it, but this is definitely a very strong card. And it has a pretty annoying non-controller effect, actually, so that basically gives everything they have 1 attack. But you can play around that. So yeah, okay. Now, I don't want to make this video too long, but I do want to talk very quickly about what kind of new decks you're going to be playing with the new cards. So, so this Zaladar I have put out is one that I've been enjoying a lot. I think, so you're going to want to watch out for elementals because, actually it's not something we talked about, but Antimatter went to 1 cost. That's a huge, huge buff to elementals. That's half a cost for their main draw engine, and now it's just really amazing. I don't think we talked about Crypt Golem. This is a really strong card that kind of is flying under the radar right now. Once per turn, when an ally is removed from the graveyard, or item, but it's kind of bugged right now. I don't think it works with items. I'm not sure if it works with your opponent's graveyard either. There's something weird going on here, but anyway, when an ally is removed from a graveyard, all opposing allies and heroes take 1 damage. So and you can use that 3 times and then it awakens. This is really, really strong with anything that removes cards from the graveyard. So think of Infinity Core, think of Shadow Knight. These cards are going to trigger that effect, and you're going to deal 1 damage to everything. And over time, that is a huge effect. That's a huge amount. Okay, so yeah, Elementals are big winners because they've got Mending Golem, which I didn't even run here. They've got Leech, which works really well with the discard strategies. Antimatter is buffed, so I think Elementals are going to be really good coming out of this. Logan is huge. Logan got buffed, actually. His hero ability just got directly buffed. So target weapon you control gains 1 base attack permanently. That's really, really strong. So Logan is going to be really powerful. Okay, there's Reika decks. Reika is going to be really strong with portal strategies and some rush strategies. I don't know if she'll be tier 1, probably not, but she'll definitely be much more playable. Okay, this is the Warner deck that I was talking about that I think is really fun, at least. You play cards like Brexnorian Temptress, which were buffed, and Leonarian Sentinel, which was also buffed. They have Defender. Then you give it Protector with Tala, and you give it Haste and Ambush with Deadman's Breach. And then you summon Warner, and it has Defender, Protector, Haste, Ambush. That's 4 abilities. Now it has 6 attack, 7 defense, and Haste, and Defender, and Protector. Very fun deck. You do need like 8 resources to pull off that combo, realistically. So kind of slower, but very fun. I think this is actually has a lot of potential. Woven decks have a lot of potential, actually, even though they got completely nerfed. So my World Championship deck, you can't play this anymore. Prophet got nerfed. They nerfed the location, and even with just those 2 nerfs, it's just not playable anymore because you can't use the combo. Prophet's no longer going to be searching cards. Lackmeyer is going to cost 1 to even use it, so it just completely conflicts with Bloodfang's hero ability. But they got compensation. Their compensation is they have the Packmaster's Pauldron and some new cards to play around with. Chains of Torment was another card that was buffed that can help it out. So this has 1/5, and when an opponent ally is killed, it gains 1 base attack. This is really good with Tinkerer. But yeah, I think Wovens have some potential. I think a big winner here is Aramia. Seriously, this is a top tier deck. You run Leander, you run the artifacts that awaken, you run the Living Ice Wall, and this deck can just swarm the field with items, and then you use something like Supernova to clear the field, and then you awaken all your items, and then you've got a full board. Your opponent has nothing on the field. This is another card I really love, Suspended Animation. You take an item from your graveyard, return it to play, freeze everything your opponent controls. So you've got these control tools with Supernova and Suspended Animation to deal with their swarm. Then you swarm your own allies, and you just, they're all 3/3, and they get buffed with Engineer's Harness and become 4/5. So you you just get an insane board. Very good deck. Almost definitely going to be a tier 1 deck. And I think, honestly, Hunters and Priests and Rogues, any human heroes in general, kind of lost out. Because a lot of the Shadow heroes got better cost 2 allies. The human heroes didn't really get anything in terms of buffs. In fact, Sorcerer got nerfed, Eunaxio Squire got nerfed, and those were the 2 really good human cards that were carrying human heroes. So I think human heroes are going to go down in viability. Any shadow heroes are going to go up in viability. The game is definitely a lot faster. So decks that are slower kind of losing out a little bit. And that pretty much wraps it up. We're just going to have to see. Anyway, thanks for watching.